Hey guys, it's me again. We're going to talk about Fattom today, but I'm going to encourage you, as usual, to write your notes. However, I'm going to do so in a little bit of a different format. So maybe grab a blank sheet of paper with me, and let's prepare our notes in a little bit of a different format today. So I'm going to fold this sheet of paper in half, hot dog style, like a hot dog bun. And then from there, I'm going to fold it in half again. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and undo that, and I want 3 boxes on this side and 3 boxes on the other side. That makes it a little bit difficult. So I'm going to fold it about to the halfway point on this side, and then just fold it in again. And then unfold it, and I've got 3 boxes on the one side. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, go to about the halfway point, then fold it again, like that, then unfold it. You should have 6 even boxes here. I'm going to open up half of it, and then just with a pair of scissors, I'm going to cut up each of those lines. So I have 6 flaps. And each of those flaps is going to represent a different letter for our acronym here for Fattom. So on the outside, I'm just going to put an F, A, T, T, O, M. So I have Fattom on the outside. And then when you go to write your notes, whenever we're looking at each letter, you can just flip this up and you can write the information either here or here. It doesn't matter, okay? So what exactly is Fattom? Fattom is an acronym that we use. Let me find my clicker. Fattom is an acronym that we use for what we consider to be TCS foods. Okay. Essentially, these foods are more susceptible to getting us sick. Okay, more prone. If I eat these particular types of food, they may run an increased risk of getting me sick. Now, we eat them pretty often. So let's talk about what those considerations are. So what is Fattom? I might encourage you just to write this on the back of your flip book. You've got your letters on the front side. Just on the back side, write this. If it's in red, no need to write it down. But Fattom is an acronym that helps us remember the 6 conditions that support the growth of microorganisms in food. Okay, that'll make a little bit more sense here in just a moment. So what are microorganisms? Small living organisms that can only be seen with a microscope. You've learned that in biology. And then you've got, if you recall what those are, you've got bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. They're all living in some kind of way. And then all of those don't have to be bad for us, okay? Fungi does not have to be bad. A mushroom you can eat. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make you sick. So when it makes you sick, that's when we consider it to be a pathogen. So they are specifically microorganisms that cause illness. So take another example here. Yogurt. Maybe some of you love yogurt. In yogurt, if you look, it usually says contains live and active cultures. There's 2 different types of bacteria that are commonly added to our yogurts. That bacteria, if you were to look at yogurt underneath a microscope, it would actually be moving because it's got those live cultures inside of it. They're bacteria. And they're kind of working away in your gut. They're kind of cleaning up your gut for you. So bacteria, in a positive way, is a good thing. That bacteria, when you eat that yogurt, doesn't make you sick. So they're not pathogens. It's just bacteria at that point. However, if those bacteria were to make you sick, that's when we consider them to become a pathogen. Okay, we talked about the 4 types: bacteria, viruses, parasite, and fungi. Okay, so under your F, you filled up the front of your flip book. Just underneath here, you are going to write your information. So food. Just like us, no need to write this down, just like us, microorganisms need food to grow as well. So we're going to find them in foods that are more richly based in proteins and carbohydrates. Okay, so pathogens need proteins and carbohydrates to survive. So the foods that run the risk of making us sick are usually protein and or carbohydrate based. Okay. Time and temperature control for safety. That means food has to be controlled in how long, in terms of time, how long it remains in a warm environment, and also in what kind of environment it is being stored in. If it's in a cold environment, it's going to stay longer. So time and temperature control for safety. Foods that you don't want to keep around for too long, and you make sure that you put them in the refrigerator. So things like meat, poultry, dairy products, eggs, cut fruits and vegetables, all of those things you would never leave out for an extended period of time. So they need the time and the temperature controlled so that they keep you safe. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about this in the live session. All right, acidity. Again, just a little bit of background information. No need to write this down. You've probably seen this before, the pH scale. It's measuring that acidity versus alkaline range. It ranges from 0 to 14, 0 being acidic, 14 being alkaline, and then 7 being that neutral zone. So where do bacteria thrive the most? Well, they thrive the most in a neutral zone. So anywhere between 4.6 to 7.5. 4.6 to 7.5. The pH of most of our foods fall within that range. Okay. So unfortunately, we're finding that a lot of the foods that we eat on a consistent basis, not only do they require time and temperature control, but because they are not very acidic, they're even more susceptible to microorganism growth. So we need to be very, very cautious of that. So examples, things like bread, raw chicken, cantaloupe, milk, cooked corn, all of those have very, very neutral zones in terms of acidity, and so they're more susceptible to microorganism growth. While you're writing a little bit of that down, I'm going to get something out of our closet over here. All right, so I've got some canned food items here. I've got tomato sauce, I have mandarin oranges, and I have mushrooms. I bought these like a year ago, maybe even longer than that. And I still don't have to use these mushrooms until 2021, so another 5 months away. And I don't need to use these mandarin oranges until later this year. So why is it that I can keep canned food items for so long? It's kind of gross how long you can keep a canned food item. And the shelf life is anywhere between 2 to 3 years, sometimes depending on what it is. And if you'll notice, all of your canned food items have something similar in them. And it's got the addition of what we call citric acid. Citric acid is in all 3 of these cans. I'd encourage you to go look at some of your canned food items in your pantry right now. They very likely have citric acid in them as well. So why do canned foods add acidity? Well, because they can tell that microorganisms don't like acidity. So if this is going to sit on the shelf for up to 3 years, they add acid to it so that microorganisms don't want to grow there. Okay, so that's how we see acidity working in our day-to-day foods. All right, time. Just in general, foodborne microorganisms, they need time to grow. Okay, they're not going to grow just suddenly, like you pull chicken out and suddenly you put it on the countertop and microorganisms are going to start to grow. You've got a little bit of a time frame before they become harmful to us when we ingest them. So given the right conditions, they are capable of doubling their population every 20 minutes. And so around the 4-hour mark, is where we see microorganisms reaching levels that run the risks of getting us sick. Okay, So microorganisms, they need that time to grow. You're looking at about 4 hours before they really run the risk of getting us sick. In regards to temperature, okay, we talked about the temperature danger zone back on your safety test. So here's that information again. I told you to submit those numbers to memory because you are going to see them a lot. So the microorganisms, they grow best in temperatures from 41 to 135. What that means is any food, whenever it's at 70 degrees, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, 120 degrees, we run the risk of those microorganisms thriving in that environment, okay? So I want you to consider right now, if you were to go over to the thermostat in your home, what is the temperature reading on your thermostat? For many of you, it's probably falling anywhere between 68 to 75 degrees, okay? That is right in the middle of our temperature danger zone. So when you pull that food out of the refrigerator for extended periods of time, up to 4 hours, you're allowing microorganisms to grow in your food. And so because of that, we want to be very cautious when we're prepping food, how long it takes us to do so, okay? Food grows even more rapidly from 70 to 125. Let's think back there for a second. I just asked you what the temperature of your home was. And again, some of you may be sitting in a home that's anywhere between 70 to 75 degrees, where microorganisms grow even more rapidly. So when we're prepping at room temperature, we have to be even more cautious. It gets even hotter here in the kitchen. You're looking at sometimes up to 78, 80 degrees because of all the heat. So we're in a very, very bad zone for microorganism growth. So what we want to do is we want it to be either below 41 degrees or above 135 degrees, because bacterial growth is limited during that time, okay? So either in the refrigerator or it's kept really, really hot. Okay, oxygen, just in general. Some foodborne microorganisms need oxygen to grow, and some don't. That's just what it is. Some need it, some don't. Just like when we're doing exercise, sometimes we need oxygen if we're doing aerobic exercises such as running. Or sometimes our muscles don't need oxygen necessarily if we're doing more muscular strength, okay? The different types of exercise. Microorganisms are the same way. The bells are still going here without you guys. Okay, so I'll bring you something live tomorrow or later today about the oxygen. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Moisture. Quite simply put, microorganisms like moist environments. Okay, microorganisms like moist environments. So they grow well in food with moisture. They're just like the pH scale. We have a water activity scale. That water activity scale is denoted by the A_W, and the amount of moisture available in food, and it's measured on a scale of 1 to 0. Or 0 to 1 rather. So foods with an activity level of 0.85 or higher are more potentially hazardous. So I want you to think about some other foods that you may find are very, very high in moisture. If you look back on the slide 1, where it was talking about different types of foods, time and temperature control for safety foods. Chicken, is it moist? Yeah. Milk, is it moist? Yeah. Cut fresh fruits and vegetables, are they moist? Yeah, and so you see that those foods are just commonly going to be associated with foodborne illnesses because they're naturally yielding to that. All right, we want to control microorganisms. We will talk a little bit more about this in the live session today. Make sure that you are coming prepared knowing this material, because I will have an activity that's going to require you to know this information. All right, I'll see you guys on the live session soon. Bye.